Thank you kindly for joining us. We will be returning to our regular programming next week, don't worry. But for now, I offer this interlude for your consideration and your enjoyment. It's a story, and an old one at that, one of sadness and despair. It begins on a night much like this one. It was storming when Detective Fisher arrived at Stokesville. The wind assaulted him as he stepped off the bus. He observed that Stokesville seemed normal on the surface, and to the average driver passing it on the way to somewhere more important, the town can even be called quaint. But Fisher could see past the veneer. The soul of the place had been sucked out. Fisher couldn't bring it back, but he could at least offer some kind of closure. Over the past 6 months, the children of Stokesville have been vanishing. All of them have disappeared close to midnight. All of them were taken from their own beds, and all of them were below the age of 10. The police were baffled, and the people were in a panic. Parents would board up their windows and stay with their children 24 hours a day, but nothing worked. The kids would still be gone by morning. The town seemed almost cursed, and the only way to protect the children would be to abandon Stokesville entirely, which families were doing in droves. The only hope left was outside intervention, in the form of a decorated detective from the city, touted as the brightest and best man for the job. Fisher saw it only as a job. He arrived at the precinct and wasted no time beginning his work. For the next few weeks, he tried everything. He followed every lead, searched every inch of that town. The residents of Stokesville were distant, hopeless, and moved about without any sense of life. When another child disappeared during his investigation, Fisher too nearly lost all hope. The night of the disappearance, Fisher sleeps alone in his hotel room. He's awakened by something he hasn't heard in such a long time. The laughter of children. It was soft and distant, but distinct. Distinct enough for him to stir, move towards the window. He looked out and saw the wind batter the woods that Stokesville huddled next to. The grass moved like indistinct waves in the darkness. Out of all the black that he saw, Fisher noticed that there was a figure standing and staring at him. A child, pale and white, tattered clothes. He met Fisher's gaze and darted into the forest. Fisher wasted no time. He ran without putting on coat or shoes and gave chase into the darkness. The child was quick, but never ran too far out of sight. Almost deliberately, Fisher chased him, ignoring the mud and the cuts and the howling of the wind. He stopped at the bank of a river, where the pale child stood, still and silent. Fisher approached him slowly, and the boy smiled. Without warning, something exploded out of the water. Fisher moved, but couldn't reach the child before the boy was grabbed and dragged into the raging river. To the detective, it seemed as if what looked like an old woman had snatched the child and drug him down into the watery depths. Fisher saw the pale white of his skin fade to the unforgiving black. He rushed out of the woods and into town, knocking on every door and shouting for help. No one answered. To his amazement, every resident of the town had abandoned it, without warning and without explanation. Fisher was the only soul left in all of Stokesville. For every day he lived after that, whenever he was asked about the Stokesville case, Detective Fisher would say the same thing over and over. That is a place where no one should ever go. It is said that even today, those who pass the town of Stokesville on their way to somewhere more important, can still hear the faint laughter of children on those lonely, stormy nights. But of course, it's just a story. You shouldn't let these things weigh heavy on your mind. But even then, please be kind and be sure to join us next week. We'll be returning to our regular programming, don't you worry. This was merely a short interlude for your consideration and your enjoyment. See ya.